couple weeks after that, the same doctor, that he and I were on the same page, he came to our health board meeting. I'm on the health board. He came to our health board meeting with 2 other doctors, and they were talking about how the sky is falling.
Wow.
And how we might need to turn the tennis courts into, line them with ventilators. And this same doctor was talking that nonsense, and 2 other doctors that
Did you ask him what happened the last 2 weeks?
I didn't. I mean, I like him so much as a person. I didn't want to publicly humiliate him, but I did go a little bit on a rampage against these doctors, and talk to. So what happened? What happened in between there? Did he suddenly become stupid? Excuse my language. Did he suddenly become? Why was he willing to abandon his sound mind? Why did he give that up when he's expressing himself? And it's the government that came out, and then the hospital goes along with that, and so he works for the hospital. He's our local infectious disease doctor. He had to go along with it. So that's what happened. And there's another story if we have time. Again, this was in March. Some of the major medical societies were canceling their in-person meetings, and they were putting their meetings online. These are meetings we only have once a year.
Yeah.
And I was perplexed by this. Come on, docs, you know how to wash your hands and take care of yourself. So I was perplexed by it. And then when the Dr. Fauci article came out, it was published in the New England Journal March 27th. It was Bullock's stay-at-home order was March 26th. Fauci's article came out in the New England Journal March 27th. So I contacted these doctors that are in leadership, and I said, hey, I was so naive. I said, look at this. I said, all we need to do is educate Governor Bullock. We're the doctors. We're the medical doctors. Dr. Fauci just turned and said, he stopped his fear-mongering. He's saying this is no big deal. We have the knowledge. We have the information. We're doctors. We can just talk to Governor Bullock, and we can turn this around. We can stop this. I was so excited. And the blowback from these doctors, the vicious vitriol against me was unbelievable. And there were even these little side stories that we need to cut her out of these emails, and we need to cut her out of this and cut her out of that. And somebody who's, not a friend, but, somebody sent me the little sidebar emails that they were sending them out amongst themselves. We need to get her to stop. We need to get her to shut that up. So what happened? We've got New England Journal, an esteemed journal, Dr. Fauci saying this is really not as dangerous as we thought. Why are we not going by that? That was the current science of the day from Dr. Fauci. That was why are we not using that? Why did these doctors do that? And why did they turn on me so viciously? It would be one thing to have an intellectual discussion if they said, well, that article is just one article by Dr. Fauci. Maybe we need to look into this a little more. No. They viciously attacked me. So at least some of the doctors in leadership were already on the take.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And and what I have seen, the doctors like me that are telling the truth, and everything that I've said has panned out to be true. If somebody wants to look into it, we're being marginalized. We're being treated as though somehow we don't know what we're talking about. We're incompetent or crazy or whatever they're doing to marginalize us. And what I've seen, including a doctor here locally, is that the ones that are promoting the nonsense, they're climbing the ladder of power within these medical organizations.
Imagine that.
Yes. Surprise, surprise. So the doctors are going along with it. Now, in terms of back to your original question about why and what are the drivers of it. So yes, the hospitals are driving the doctors this way. Yes, the major medical societies are driving the doctors. They're coercing, they're scaring doctors from telling the truth and promoting the doctors that lie. Why is that happening? It has to do with financial and power incentives. Just follow the money and the lust for power. It's always the same thing. And so, the CARES Act 2020 gave $175 billion to doctors and hospitals. $175 billion. And that's just CARES Act 2020, let alone, right as of yesterday, we have roughly 1,068,000 people in Montana. More than that have been tested, okay? And if you take an average cost of, $100 per test, that's over $100 million has been made just from that. And so the amount of money, and then you talk about the reimbursement for COVID tests, or COVID test reimbursement, admissions for COVID, all these kinds of things that, the remuneration, the financial remuneration for hospitals and doctors is tremendous.
So in other words, the longer COVID is around, the more money they will continue to make.
That's absolutely right. And they are being paid. And like I said, that one doctor, he's a local doctor. He's growing in the corporate ladder. The steps to success, or just to go along with the nonsense. I was in a meeting, and he was sitting in a room by himself with a mask on.
Yeah.
He's really promoting it, and those are the ones that are getting financial remuneration, and also they're gaining in power. Which is
what they want. I want to circle back to the topic today and kind of wrap this up a little bit. Our good friend John Fuller says, "Hey, I'm ready to do my show." When you talk about the Great Reset, and you talk about the clergy and the schools and the hospitals and doctors being a part of that, right? And a lot of people aren't talking about that, and you're so bold to be doing it. Upon first blush of hearing that, how are all these different segments all in on this big scheme of the Great Reset? And I just did a quick little map for myself, because I'm kind of analytical, and I look at everything from a business perspective. There's not that many steps to that. And so if I look at it, if I put the reset at the top of the page, right? The reset is Washington, D.C. Okay? You have one person in D.C. that holds the state accountable. I'm sure there's more, but if you look at it from D.C. to your state, okay, so now we've got a state official that believes in the reset. The state goes directly to the CEOs of the hospitals.
Yep.
And says, hey, this is what we're doing.
That's right.
This is what you're going to get. This is the power you're going to receive.
Exactly right.
And you're going to push that down as the CEO of this hospital, this organization, which is very large, to all your doctors, right? So all of a sudden you've got DC 1, State 2, 3 is the hospital CEO. You've got 3 people to get through. Once you hit that CEO, all of a sudden you've changed the minds of 100-plus doctors in your one area.
That's right.
Step and repeat that to every major city. Now you take the state, the same steps, DC to the state, to the school board president, Flathead County, right? Again, you've got 3 steps. Now you've got all the teachers.
That's
and the same thing with the churches, right? A great reset is not that many steps to make it happen. When you consider power and money as the great motivator for people and the easy path for people to continue a pandemic and what we're going through. You're so brilliant to point this out. The documentary is going to be lucky to have your story and your position on this.
I appreciate you so much. I appreciate the time. And it was a slow boil, and a lot of these things built up slowly over time. You look at churches, IRS 501c3 status, where they're tax exempt, they're not allowed to say certain things. And so, that was 1954, the Johnson Amendment that Donald Trump tried to get rid of. But that silenced the churches, made them afraid to tell the truth about things, right? Physicians, the RAC audits that started in 2003, doctors became afraid. And then after Obamacare passed, they couldn't financially make it on their own. So it has been a slow boil, but once you get those things, and the teachers, they've been on the take. They're government employees, so they've been willing to go along with the nonsense of any kind, of every stripe, for forever. So it's been a slow boil, but they've got all the pieces in place right now.
I saw a brief documentary, and I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole too far, but the documentary said, "What if our politicians aren't the good people we thought they were, right? If they had other motives." We're all human. God tells us that. We're not void of sin. And that doesn't mean that politicians are void of sin. So it's not that hard to do what they're doing when you've got a couple people in power that decide, hey, I've got a plan. I know how we can maintain our power and have all the money in the world and bring some of our friends along with us. And when you consider a person of authority and power like Nancy Pelosi perhaps, it's not that hard for her to sit in her position and say, hey, let's work with these doctors. Let's create a pandemic that's going to put the fear in the country. And then we're going to push that down and start mapping out how they're going to take more control. I've been in meetings in California where you look at a political position that's opening, right? There's going to be an opening. And these meetings of just normal everyday people going, well, who's going to run for that? I don't know. Who's the best person? Who has the most friends? Who looks the best? Who speaks the best? Okay, let's pick Joe over there because he fits that criteria and put them in that role. And the reason why those roles are available is because people are too busy.
That's right.
In their lives, raising their kids,
That's right.
surviving, doing their thing, looking forward to a Friday night, to be involved with politics and to fill that position instead of with Joe because he fits this easy criteria, with somebody that's qualified, intelligent, and cares about people to make a difference. And that's how this stuff happens.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate in the Flathead, at least, and probably I'm sure other pockets in the country, people are getting more involved.
Yes.
We're getting intelligent, liberty-oriented, truth-telling people to run for all these different positions. So that's what really needs to happen.
And I think
nationwide.
that really kind of brings us all back home. If we want to avoid a great reset, if we want to push back against the churches, the schools, and the hospitals that are going along with this agenda, we need to get involved.
That's
all
right.
of us.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
smart, intelligent people out there.
That's right. And we could stop it. I'm confident that we could stop it if enough people. It never has had to be a majority. Never.
Yeah.
You look at our American Revolution. You look at the stories in the Old Testament. It never had to be a significant majority at all. It just takes truth-telling, bold people standing up, and God blesses it. Look at how we've been blessed in the Flathead. We have the sheriff department on our side, the police, the county attorney, at least one of the judges. And, they were probably really good people to begin with, decent people. But we helped them. We emboldened them. We backed them up. When they do the right thing, we back them up.
Yeah.
If they do the wrong thing, we don't. And it's really, I believe it's that simple, because we take these meager human efforts, and everything we do is really meager compared to the machine that we're up against.
Yeah.
The international machine we're up against. Our efforts are always, and what we is always meager, but God blesses it. It makes it big and defeats the tyranny.
Yeah.
So, because it's His law of liberty that we're fighting for, and it's His adversary that we're ultimately fighting against. So, people need, this world was shut down by a scary story, nothing more than that, and that is pathetic. And we're standing up. We're going to win.
Doctor, I think that's a great place to close the show. I hope you want to come back. I'll do this
great.
again.
Oh, you're so pleasant. You ask the best questions. You keep things going. You keep it interesting. So I appreciate that.
If you've heard the show and you like it, pass it on. That's the only way we're going to grow this message. If you have questions for Dr. Annie in the future, I like your first name.
I like that.
If you have questions for us in the future, please write in and tell us what you want to hear more of. We're here for you. Thank you for tuning in to Liberty or Lose. Until next time.